Before we begin the meeting, I'm going to ask everybody to please silence your cell phones. I call to order this regular meeting of the Navasota Planning and Zoning Commission for September 12th, 2024. If you're able, please rise for the invocation and the pledge. Heavenly Father, as we come before you this evening, we ask that you guide us in the decisions we are about to make in the citizens of Navasota. We ask that you pour your presence upon us this evening and grace us with the right things. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, remarks of visitors. I know I've been handed two, and both of you are here to speak on something that is on the agenda. So you will have time to speak on those items when they come up. Do we have any other?
No, sir.
Okay. So seeing that there's nothing else on public remarks, we'll conduct a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comments and testimony regarding a zoning change application submitted by CAG Family Limited Partnership for the purpose of developing an AutoZone, a retail sales use. The zoning change application requests to change the zoning from Article 6R-1B medium density single dwelling unit quarter acre residential district to Article 10 overlay district to Article 11 B1 general business district with Article 10 overlay district. The property affected is located at 1539 East Washington Avenue, Navasota, Texas 77868. Legally described as Jones Block 1, Lot 3. And we will open the public hearing at 6:02. For those of you who are coming to speak on the item before us in the public hearing, we're going to limit your comments to 3 minutes. We ask that you please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Lupe?
Mr. Chairman, Planning and Zoning Commission, just to briefly summarize the application as you read, there's a lot of legal notes in there, but in essence, the current property is zoned R1B residential with historic overlay district. So it's essentially a two-layer or two-zone property. The applicant, CAJ Family Limited Partnership, is the current property owner. They've submitted this rezoning application on behalf of AutoZone. AutoZone is proposing to construct a store here, and so in order for that to happen, a zoning change needs to be approved. And what they're requesting is B1 General Business District with overlay. So they're asking to maintain the overlay district and just change the underlying zoning. Kevin Murphy is here with AutoZone to summarize the application. We also received before we go to public comments, at least those present, we did receive a letter that was asked to be read into the record. So if you wanted me to read that, or
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. So this is from Julia A. Ferguson. She owns property at 119 North Post Oak. So it reads, 119 North Post Oak is currently a rental property with long-term 10-plus year tenants who would like to remain, but are concerned about the repeated request to rezone the neighboring property as I am. I now live in Maryland, but previously called 304 North Post Oak my home, and know there are others who still reside on that street. So I am familiar with the street and the community that lives there. Before you is a request to change the zoning for 1539 East Washington Avenue from residential to general business for the purpose of building an AutoZone at that location. I ask that you deny that request. North Post Oak Street is a residential neighborhood with 2, 3, and 4 bedroom houses occupied by families, some older retired people, and other children who play in their front yards and ride their bicycles in the street. A dead-end street with little traffic, in parentheses. High-impact business, such as AutoZone, aim to draw a high volume of people from the highway, people who may not be aware or care that people live in houses right next door. Already, because of the previously approved Burger King, there is an increase in people unfamiliar with the area heading down North Post Oak looking for an exit to only find the street's dead ends. and they must turn around. Residents of North Post Oak are also experiencing issues with bright lights, noise, exhaust fumes, and trash. The situation must not be allowed to get worse. Allowing such commercial businesses at the entrance to the street will surely impair both the safety of the neighborhood and the quality of life for those who live on North Post Oak. I understand why there could be an interest in seeing Washington Avenue move towards more business use. I too would love to see Navasota grow and its economy strengthened, but not like this. We can do better. The city's comprehensive plan says that Navasota takes pride as a clean, relaxing, safe community and is a growing suburban area where commercial development along with residential communities grow and prosper. For that to be true, the city must consider how commercial development and residential communities can effectively coexist. It's essential to consider the property uses that lie next to each other. There should be a buffer of lesser impact businesses such as offices or public spaces such as parks between higher impact restaurants, shopping centers, etc., and residential neighborhoods. The current zoning with the overlay supports that. The comprehensive plan also says that, quote, many folks visit to see the beauty of the landscape, including the stately Victorian and Gothic style homes. I ask you to consider the impact of an encroachment of businesses towards those Victorian and Gothic style homes. Please let the line be drawn on the east side of North Post Oak and do not let the look and feel of Navasota with its historic homes, family-oriented neighborhoods, and quaint downtown buildings be destroyed. There are plenty of other areas in Navasota where convenience businesses such as fast food restaurants and high-volume retail stores can be located. The property at 1529 East Washington is already subject to an overlay that allows businesses such as bed and breakfast, professional offices, and fine dining restaurants. Those types of businesses are much more appropriate to a location right next to a residence. I implore you to leave the R1B residential zoning with the overlay in place. Do not approve the request for rezoning to B1 General Business District.
Thank you, Lupe.
And as mentioned prior, Mr. Kevin Murphy is here with AutoZone, and he will summarize the application for those present.
Mr. Murphy?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Kevin Murphy. I represent AutoZone Store Development. Location is 123 South Front Street, Memphis, Tennessee, 38116. Or I'm sorry, 38103. Greatly appreciate Lupe, everything that he's done as AutoZone and owners have made this submittal. Basically here to answer any questions that any of the commission members or the residents have for AutoZone. Location is 1536 and we're proposing a 7,382 square feet brick building. One thing to note is that the brick building is very much out of AutoZone's norm of how the facade looks. Elevations were presented in the submittal package. This is a very upscale building for AutoZone. This will be a full face brick pitched roof around the entire building. AutoZone's typical structure is just a flat roof, no brick, CMU. We can do split face or smooth face CMU. A painted trademark color scheme, and that is usually a gray with red and orange. In discussions with Lupe and staff before we even made application, we felt that it was not fair to the community to present an AutoZone prototype straight off the bat. So this is how we came to the resolution. We do have many buildings like this in other residential neighborhoods like this, and it has been complimentary in other areas to build a store like this. We are very happy about the possibility, AutoZone is very happy about the possibility of coming here to Navasota. We feel that we understand the overlay district, and as Lupe mentioned, we are not proposing to remove the overlay district. We have no problem abiding by elevations, landscaping, lighting. We have gone over the past council and planning and zoning meetings to get the concern from the residents and from the city. We feel that we can accomplish everything that the city has concern about. We can resolve that in order to build this building in this location. One thing that I've seen previously is the traffic. AutoZone is a very low traffic generator. We are not even close to what a restaurant falls into. We have standard AM and PM peak hour for traffic, and a lot of our customers are, DIY people coming in for washing vehicles, everyday items. We have a lot of customers that come in like off peak hours, which is kind of, morning, lunch, and then after work. So just not a very big traffic generator in regards to volume. We have, this will, propose tax dollars and generate employees, and generate jobs for the local area. Typically, when a store starts out, it's usually about 12 to 18 employees. We usually run 3 shifts. It's usually about 3 to 4 employees per that shift. So about 12 to 18, and then of course, if the store starts generating very good, we will even add more jobs to make sure that our customers are taken care of. So once again, we've heard previous, worries about developing this site, but I feel that AutoZone can resolve a lot of the worries, hopefully, that the residents have. And once again, I'm here to answer any questions that anybody has and hopefully put people's mind at ease about us developing this site.
How many locations do you have currently in residential style areas such as this one?
I couldn't put a specific number to that. We are upwards of almost 8,000 stores, but I can speak that I have been with the company almost 19 years come this December. I have been involved in anywhere between 600 to 700 of these stores, and this is not out of the norm. It is coming into an area that we feel we fit into. It is definitely in the overlay district, but we feel that it is a fitting location due to the fact that it is at the very beginning, and it is still close to the highway, and from what I hear, people refer to that as the loop. We are very close to that loop. We are not more closer to the downtown, and that is specifically the reason why we are presenting an elevation and a site like this. One thing to point out as well, I just thought of this, is that this site plan was updated. We typically have all of our parking in the front and on the side. And once again, talking with Lupe and the staff, taking into the requirements, we completely shifted the entire parking lot and the building to what you see on the screen. AutoZone's approval process, we had the building all the way in the back left of the site with parking on the side and in the front. And once again, speaking with Lupe and staff, we did not feel that that was very deserving to the residents. We pulled it up to the front, street presence, parking in the rear, parking on the side with the brick building. We feel it's much more fitting in with the overlay district than what we have done previously.
Would you say your average customer is a intentional trip rather than an impulse trip?
Yes.
Then what's the inherent desire to be in a neighborhood zone rather than out on the loop?
We have a research department that verifies trade areas that we go in. And I can't speak to that fully, just not my forte as part of AutoZone, but a lot of it has to do, this is standard across almost all development. People want to be where the most traffic is. We want to be where more residents are passing through and might think, oh, got to get some windshield wiper fluid, let's stop in at AutoZone. A lot of development is based around vehicle trips per day, and this street has a lot of vehicles coming down it. So basically, research department picks the trade areas, and then the trade area gets passed off to the real estate team, and the real estate team get with local realtors and developers and pick these sites. I I can't speak to what, if other sites are within the city that are currently zoned accurately. I don't know how many sites the real estate department looked at. I am in the pre-construction department. I oversee design and permitting. So this is the site that was handed to us in that department, and we do everything in our power to bring that store to this location.
And if you were a resident on either side of this for the past 20 years, you wouldn't have a problem building it there?
It would depend on what the applicant is proposing. Me, I like what we see here, and this is not being partial to me being an AutoZoner, but I would as a residence, I would much rather see the building and the site that we are proposing than what we normally would propose. There is not, O'Reilly's is here. O'Reilly's is the only AutoZone, or is the only auto parts dealer. And just like any other,
Napa.
I'm sorry,
There's a Napa as well.
And Walmart.
O'Reilly's is not here.
O'Reilly's is, and there is a Napa as well.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm looking.
You're not the
at our
marketing guy,
competitors.
we get it.
O'Reilly's in advance are our biggest competitors. Napa's not even up there with us, but yes, I mean, me being a resident of my town, if something like this was proposed, I would definitely go with something like this versus something of what our prototype looks like.
Do your stores, after they get built and they're there for several years and the profitability, is maybe a little bit on the negative side, what happens then?
We are not in the business of closing stores. We will do everything in our power to make sure that store gets producing to what we projected it to do. We're not in the business of closing stores. We very rarely ever do that.
So you don't ever walk off from a building, you don't ever, have to close a store and then there's an abandoned building there?
I can't say that we've never done that before. I'm sure that there are some instances. There's somewhere owners completely just kick us out and we have to, move to another one. But just because a store is not performing well, we just go back and revisit it and try to figure out what we can do to get that store to perform, whether that is marketing, local marketing, PR, whatever that might be.
Is AutoZone going to own the land and the building? Or is this
I
a project that you're
apologize.
leasing?
I apologize for not knowing that. We are buying, correct? Yeah, purchase. And typically, whenever, not applicable to this contract, but when we ground lease, we're in it for 20 to 25 years.
With the parking lot in the back instead of the front, even thinking about other locations of auto parts places where there are parking lots in the front, I noticed people with their hoods up.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's just not very pretty, not very attractive, and, and it's lasting for a long time. I drive by a couple times.
We have 2 services that we pop hoods for, and that is it. We definitely canvass the parking lot for people that are doing work in their cars. We definitely do not allow that. Managers will come out and tell them they have to get off the lot. We don't do service. What we do is customer friendliness. If you show up and your battery's getting ready to die, we will change that battery for you. If you need help changing your windshield wipers, we will do that. What that is, we call that, a phrase internally is called gotcha. Go out to the customer's vehicle, basically, is what that means. So those are the 2 things from a customer friendliness that AutoZone does. Anything other than that, we do not do service. We do not allow any of that. We canvass the parking lots and make sure that is not going on. Those happen more in big cities. I do not see anything like that happening in this city, but I know just Philadelphia is one big that we always have that problems, and we like to call them lot mechanics, but I don't see that problem here. So
I have a question. I've noticed in other areas in which I've lived and worked, if you have an O'Reilly build, you have an AutoZone across the street from it. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you look at the property across the street from where O'Reilly is building?
once again, I can't speculate on how real estate, picks those, but I can just note that We want to be where our competitors is. It's plain, it's just like McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell. They all want to be where each other are so they can beat them out. We don't see that any differently. We want to be the best in auto parts.
So there's commercial property right across the street from where O'Reilly is building, so.
Okay.
How often are your truck deliveries, and then can you address where any dumpster receptacle and/or any oil recycling containers would exist?
The truck delivery will be anywhere between 1 to 2 deliveries per week, and those are off-peak hours. Once again, kind of mid-morning, mid-afternoon. We'd like to make sure that, traffic is not busy during lunch or during morning or after work, so that is usually when the deliveries happen. The dumpster enclosure is top left of the site, back left, top left of the plan you see. It would, in this case, that dumpster enclosure would be brick to match the building. Anytime we have an upscaled architectural building like this, we always have the dumpster enclosure to match. AutoZone has its own recycling. Everything that we recycle, we put back on that delivery truck and it goes back to the distribution center. We do not keep recyclable material in the store. It goes back on the truck. Every store does have a 185-gallon oil recycle bin. That is for customers that are DIYers that change their own oil. They can come in, bring their oil tank in, and dump it right into our system. It is removed as needed basis, and we have an environmental company that comes in and sucks the oil out, puts it in their system, and takes it to dispose of it.
And where's that? That's located inside, or?
It is located inside. It's 185-gallon. It's usually backed by the delivery door. The delivery door is an overhead door, and from the plan view, that would be on the top left-hand corner of the plan view that you see.
And then the height of the privacy fence surrounding the property?
What was that?
The height of the privacy fence that would be surrounding the
We
property?
haven't even made it to that point, but we haven't gone into full design on this because obviously we wanted to make sure that residents aligned with this and we get approval. But I have heard that on past applications, and AutoZone has no problem with doing a privacy fence around the two borders that border residential. Typically in those situations, they're going to be a 6 foot tall. I typically go with a vinyl picket fence. So sometimes in non-residential, we'll do a black vinyl chain link fence, but in this area, we would propose a 6 foot vinyl board, 6 foot privacy fence.
Another, like in the past, there's been questions about light pollution in the evening and things like that, I know it's not part of the plan here, but...
Understood, absolutely. I greatly appreciate the questions. Just full transparency, AutoZone standard light fixture is a 28 foot tall pole. It's a 3 foot base and 28 foot tall. We can change that. We can reduce that, bring it down. Looking at this site, we haven't got into lighting, but looking at this, it would pretty much take three lights. It'd be 2 on the left side parking, 1 at the rear. And to me, all we have to do is cut those things in half or in third. My thought is we propose 12 feet tall, and instead of putting 3 of them, we have to make sure that our customers and our employees are safe. We would put probably 5 to 6 of them around, but that brings it down. It doesn't cast light. Our fixtures, all of our building and all of our site fixtures are full cutoff, LED. They shine to the ground. They do not disperse outward. And we also have our lighting manufacturer even has an additional screening for those single site lights. We have what they call a house side shield, and it is a little bitty lip that comes down off of 3 sides of each fixture, about an additional 9 to 10 feet, and it creates the backward throw of the light to just go obsolete. Everything will shine forward into the parking lot. Lighting can definitely be resolved. We have to adjust that to local requirements anyway. If there are no local requirements on lighting height, then our typical is 3 foot concrete base, 25 foot tall pole for an overall height of 28 foot. But once again, We reduce those to meet local code requirements whenever that is necessary.
And what time does the store close, and after closing, do all the lights stay on?
And thank you, yes, I meant to add that on, but yes, typical hours for a brand-new store is from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. We have a system in our store that is called VinStar. VinStar monitors all of our mechanical and lighting system. So once that manager sets the alarm for the night, VinStar shuts down all lighting 15 minutes after he sets that alarm. He or she sets that alarm.
So the parking lot will be completely dark?
Yes. After closing, 15 to 20 minutes after closing, they automatically shut down once that manager locks the door for the night. And then they're just set on timers. Whenever it starts getting dark, they'll turn back on.
Are there any like overnight inventory days? Everything's done during hours?
Correct, yep. If a store does start to produce good, those hours might shift. It might go to 7:30 or 9:30, but that also depends on how the store operates. If we see more customers trying to come in at 8:59, they might, obviously we'll hold the store open for those customers to get what they need, but if they start seeing that trend, they might revise the hours, but that's operationally, they make that call.
And you don't have any concerns that there's no windows on the backside facing that parking lot?
No windows?
Like you wouldn't see what's going on? People have all their hoods up, they work on cars behind the store.
If we put windows in there, they're going to be covered up by fixtures. All the exterior walls typically have fixtures on them. When we do have requirements to put real windows in, we do adapt to those. I haven't seen any requirement about those windows here, but real true windows out of the standard norm that you see in the color elevation become a loss prevention problem for us. We don't want extra opportunities for people to bust into the store and get what they need.
My concern was you have a house that backs up to a privacy fence that's then parking lot that no one can monitor because you can't see out.
Oh, our employees monitor it. They walk the parking lot. They go out and walk the parking lot on a daily basis. Managers do it, employees do it.
Daily.
That is part of operational procedures.
Will there be external trash cans? I'm just thinking about, not just the big dumpster.
Oh, okay, yes.
But, people walk out, throw their trash down, sadly.
Yes, we definitely have. We have, typically, this store would have probably 2 barrels right outside the front door. So just in case an AutoZoner has to go out there and change a battery, change windshield wipers, they can dispose of it right there.
Anybody else have questions for him? No. All right.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Stay close, because I'm sure the public's going to have some questions. So, again, limit your comments on this item for 3 minutes. You're welcome to come up, ask questions, state your concerns. Just remember, name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Betsy Leonard, and we live on McNair Street, which is down the street from here. And I just want to speak against rezoning this property to commercial for several reasons. By maintaining the property as residential, it stops this domino effect of commercializing on down, what I call commercial creep into downtown. And they can have their overlay and maintain it, but what about the next company that comes to you and wants to maintain the overlay but have a building? It doesn't fly. The parking lot is really up against two homes, whether there's a fence there or not. It looks like you're coming in off of Washington and the home to the left, and then off of Post Oak, and a lot behind that. You know, those are residences with kids and, you know, things that they want to be doing in a quiet manner and in their nice residential peace. I also think that the city, yeah, you'll be thinking of all the tax dollars that'll come here, but you're devaluing those residences around it. You're devaluing the residences down Post Oak and along Washington. And I just want to ask, which one of you wants to live in a commercial district? You know, do you want to live there? When our family moved here, we waited until a house with a nice sized yard came on the market because we had children and we wanted them to have lots of, you know, room to play. Maybe today a family can't afford one of these lovely big yards and a Victorian house, but these lots are large. It's a 1/4 acre, but an affordable house. You know, maybe they want something bigger than Pecan Lakes. Yeah, that's what it's called. But, you know, this is a quality of life where they can have something and it attracts young families. You got to think about these things. When you tear down and clear off a piece of property, you're moving old homes, you're moving old trees. And we saw that across the street, beautiful trees taken down. You've replaced it with a busy parking lot and more traffic on Washington Avenue. Right now it's called an avenue, but what happens when they widen Washington Avenue because of all the traffic that has come in and out now? It's not an avenue anymore. You've lost it. We're not against an AutoZone by any means, but it just needs to be in a more appropriate location, and we do have plenty of affordable locations for them. He talked about vehicle trips per day on this. Yeah, there's a lot of vehicle trips, and there are going to be more. It's going to get worse. This approach into our downtown is the only non-commercial street we have. All our other entries are commercialized. From this property going west into downtown, Washington Avenue is mostly residences with beautiful lots and several Victorian homes.
Time's up, Betsy.
Okay. Do you want to be like Hempstead?
Thank you, ma'am.
Council. My name is Lucy Ybarra. I live at 227 North Post Oak, so right on the street. It's a little odd for Matthew and I to say that. I would ask you guys to consider, I'm sure all the residents here are thinking the same thing. Your job as P&Z is to reflect what your local leadership and what your council reflects. And your council has said over and over, quality over quantity. Your city leadership who are here tonight have said, hey, we are paying attention to our community and we see a need for parks, we see a need for a pool, we see a need to revamp and remodel our library. So they see a need for quality. And I'm asking you guys to consider that as well. While, yes, we always need economic development, we always need more sales tax, we always need jobs. O'Reilly's has jobs. Walmart has jobs. Right now, you can check, you can pull them. We have within an immediate factor, within immediate travel, you have 2 auto parts stores that serve our community immediately. Within less than 10 miles, actually 9.2 miles, you have Anderson Auto Parts. That man and his family has been serving this community for over 30 years. Most of you have probably actually bought from them when Napa or O'Reilly didn't have the part, which happens. We need to consider when we bring in new businesses what the need is, what the reflection is of our community, and where we actually need to develop and bring in. We may not need 4 auto parts store. We may need multi-purpose housing. We may need a larger Walmart. We may not need 5 of the same thing. So I ask, as a resident, a new resident of Navasota, which is very odd, please consider that when you allow things to come in. Not only AutoZone, you're going to get a lot of these requests because we're growing by leaps and bounds. We got to look at quality. You have 3 focuses here. You have quality over quantity. You have immediate focus of what the city leader, councilman, and your leadership says. And then you also have an ecological factor. How much does this disturb the green space that we fight so hard to preserve? My own family, we just bought a home here 2 months ago. We've already had an arborist come out because we're noticing that there are some stressors in our neighborhood, our very small neighborhood, for the trees that are already there. We had an arborist come out to see how we could fix those on our own dime. And we're doing that because we care about the way the city looks. We volunteer our own time, our own money to do this. And I think you also need to consider the ecological impact that you'll have by bringing in another business, vibration, waste, lighting, things like that. We want to preserve what we have now, but we also want to develop smartly and not develop 5 things of the same type of thing, if that makes sense. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Lucy.
you.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Ramirez. I live at 312 Ivy Street. I'm speaking about denying the request to rezone the property at 1539 East Washington Avenue. I want to be clear that my comments are not against a business, but in the location of the business. Words I hear often to describe Navasota are charming and quaint. The definition of charm is the power or quality of giving delight or arousing admiration. The definition of quaint is attractively unusual or old-fashioned. I, like City Councilman Mr. Gessner mentioned at Monday's meeting when he spoke about new business coming to town, am for free market. I completely support and am in favor of business, both new and old, enterprise and progression. But I am not in favor of it if it's in exchange for my beautiful, quaint, and charming hometown that everyone loves and admires. As City Manager Mr. Weeks explained at Monday's meeting, the concern for smoke shops coming into our town had mostly to do with people concerned about aesthetics and, of course, health. Please keep our beautiful homes. And as Mayor Miller mentioned at Monday's meeting when speaking about the same topic as I referenced, buildings can be quite ugly, and they do make an ugly, ugly town when you do stuff like that. We do not want that for our town, and although I am certain a new build of an AutoZone, as we just saw, would be very nice, and I welcome it to town, we do not want it on our main street. There are surely many other locations for this business. I personally, like most citizens, love the charm and quaintness that our neighborhoods bring. There are tons of history in our homes and churches. I do not attend Trinity Lutheran Church or live in homes directly next to this location, although I am a couple of streets over. But the idea that those families who do will walk out or drive out and the first thing they would see is an auto store rather than a beautiful home makes me very sad. If we allow 3, 2, or even 1 home to be rezoned on our main streets, where does it end? Before you know it, we don't have a charming, quaint, beautiful main drive. We only have a commercial downtown. Money is not everything. I am asking the Planning and Zoning Commission to recommend to the City Council to deny the request of rezoning that property in order to keep our town special. And I don't know if it's possible or not, but I would also like to see these requests stop after a certain number of tries, as this gets old and tiring every few years. I appreciate your consideration and time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Sharon Hudson, 7404 Masters Drive. Sadly, I will not be nearly so eloquent because I didn't come to speak tonight. I came to hear. I also am not against business and AutoZone being here. I am against it being on Washington. I wrote 3 points while I was listening. Number 1, why are we here? Just like we mentioned, we have been here countless times before saying we don't want business encroaching down Washington Avenue. The Post Oak makes a nice, clean stopping point. We don't need anything further. To AutoZone's point about having a brick building and being, nicer facades. And I came from a very large city, and we had a nice facade AutoZone
you know, on the corner of our neighborhood. But our neighborhood did not look like Navasota. It looked more like College Station, with Targets on one corner and restaurants on another corner and strip centers on the other two. And then the neighborhoods were down the street. And then those are my 3 points. Number one, I do not know why we are here, and we continue to argue the same point. The city has spoken. We don't want any more business encroaching down our beautiful avenue leading into downtown.
Thank you, Sharon.
Hello, hi, I'm Elton Wilson, this is my wife, Rhonda Wilson. We have a house at 1512 East Washington, next door to the Lutheran Church. And the reason why we're here, we're not opposing AutoZone either. But coming in from Houston, we live in Houston right now, but we purchased here so I can retire in a city that I don't know anybody. My wife's family is from here, but I'm not. But I just loved it when I turned on this street and saw all these beautiful oak trees. I loved it. And the reason why, for the last 10 years, my wife and I has been on a program here in Navasota called Keep Navasota Beautiful. I think everybody's aware of that. We come here every year, except for the first year of COVID, and we clean this city up voluntarily. We come and spend 2, 3, 4 hours in this city making it beautiful. I love doing that. The reason why I'm opposing AutoZone, first of all, Ms. Sharon, the lady just left. One day our mail was delivered to her house, and she made sure she came and gave us our mail. That's resident, that's community.
Mm-hmm.
When we purchased our house, the people we purchased our house was basically saying, the realtor said, well, they don't want a LLC because they don't want in and out people, and they don't want businesses, and they don't want investors. And we just want a family that want to live in this house and retire, because this is where our grandparents lived. And that's why we got that house, because ended up, my wife's grandmother used to work in that house years ago. So it became a blessing for us. And I just love the street, but one problem I have with AutoZone, and sir, I'm not knocking anything you said, but there is lot mechanics at AutoZone. All of them. Especially at this one behind the building, they're going to have a bunch of guys out there behind the car working, and then the manager saying, oh, go ahead, sell them the parts. Don't make them move, because as long as they're buying parts, my quota go up. You know, and so the thing is, those guys, they dump antifreeze and motor oil and all of that, and all of them don't go put it in the trash can like the lady, like he was asking about the trash cans. They get on the ground. One thing about East Washington, the water flows downhill toward town. So every time somebody pour oil on the ground, antifreeze or whatever that's sitting in the parking lot, as soon as it rains, it goes straight downtown to where we at right now. All the time, Burger King's there now. We only come on weekends right now. Sometimes we spend our weeks here. But there's always trash in the yard. I pick trash up out the churchyard, out of my yard, across the street at the Moore's house. I pick trash up all the time. Some of y'all might have seen us. I'm out there picking up trash all the time. But where's it going to be when motor oil is starting to sit out in the street and cars start sliding and everybody's stopping to make that turn to go to Post Oak Street? A lot of cars turn right there in the front of the, next door to the Moore's house, in the front of my house. And then you have the nursing home. There's always cars. You have ambulances coming out the hospital. It's going to eventually be a danger zone out there with just the liquids, because the liquids have to go somewhere. He's saying the environmental thing come, they got a 185-gallon tank, they empty the tank, they take the oil away. Yeah, but what you do outside? You know, what you do with all the chemicals outside? But I know I had 3 minutes, but since my wife, did we get 5?
Different speakers.
Okay, hi. I'm not used to speaking, but like my husband said, my parents are from here. As a little girl, I've said this, I've been here before. Hopefully this is the last time. And it seemed like we're going from kind of bad to worse. But going down East Washington Avenue was just like, I'm in awe. To this day, I'm still in awe. I'm an old lady. So we want Navasota to be quaint and beautiful. As we were coming in today, I told my husband, I said, wait, watch when we get past Burger King. It's like the sea opens up to this beautiful community. Money is not everything. I'm learning, so money is not everything. So I want to be able to sit on my porch, drink my coffee, watch the sunset, and I don't want to look at a car, a hood, a broken down car, trash, lights. I want to look at that gray house on that corner, the house across the street, the one on the side of me. Keep Navasota beautiful. And we stand, as you probably know, we oppose the building of AutoZone. Thank you all so much.
And I say before I go, it's a perfect property, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Next door to the Shell gas station in Popeyes. It's for sale. Beautiful lot. They don't want but $300,000 for it, but anyway.
Kevin Homar. I live at 320 North Post Oak, which is at the very end of the dead-end street. And ever since the Burger King has come in, they tore down gorgeous oak trees to build it. And that's a beautiful house there. As living at the end of the street, I have more traffic turning around in my driveway, trailers in my yard. I always have to go out and repair my yard after a rain, or with the drought, I still have ruts, tearing my grass up, my driveway and everything. So I'm opposed of having an AutoZone there because it's going to bring more traffic at the end of my street. They said that the signage from the Burger King, it was not going to do that. And I constantly, all day long, have that, and hours of the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, Marcia Wellman. We live at 219 North Post Oak. And I've had to revise what I was going to say because everyone seems to be covering the points pretty well. One thing I want to talk about is, no, North Post Oak is a dead-end street. We have one entrance and one exit. That street with 17 homes is the entirety of our neighborhood. And number one, that entrance and exit is already challenging and dangerous. If you're coming in from the east side, you've got 2 lanes of speeding traffic, merging into 1 lane, 0 signage for that, turning in and out of Subway, the car wash, the Burger King. When I'm coming home from work, I have to watch my rear view to make sure no one's going to rear end me when I'm trying to slow down and turn on my street because it's already a disaster. So I can't imagine if we added another business with more entrance and exits, more traffic to that small intersection. We don't have another way out. This is it. We're stuck. All of these homes on our street, these people have worked hard to purchase. They put blood, sweat, and tears into building their sanctuary. And that last quarter mile of getting to your house matters. And if it's a nightmare to leave or come home every day, what's your quality of life? The joke is that this street you had to know someone to get in on this street because it was so desirable to live on. And if you make these sort of changes, not only are you changing our quality of life, you're, changing the resale value of these homes. And that doesn't seem fair. And I don't see why we would want to throw the zoning out the window. If we want to be Houston, sure, but I don't think anyone here aspires to be Houston. What Washington Avenue is, it's a beautiful large lots of grass and trees, and that's what you're driving into. And to want to replace that with concrete and trash and grime and lights and noise, it just sounds like a nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mariah Caskey, Navasota Realty, 303 East Washington. I've been to several of these, heard a lot of the same stories, same complaints, same concerns. A lot of them very, very valid. A lot of them the mindset of homeowners, residents, not city planners, not economic developers. Not people thinking about the future. Definitely understand that, can respect it. We are flanked by a river on two sides, a massive creek on the south side, huge drainage through the middle of Highway 6, high school, that traffic. There's a reason we haven't had a store go in across from the high school. We are limited with space. 86% or 84% of the overlay district is already owned by people who have other intentions than living in that area. I respect LLCs and investors. I respect wanting privacy. I respect wanting a peace and quiet home. I have 4 children. I want my kids to run and play and ride their bikes. These are all beautiful ideals and things that are worth fighting for, without a doubt. But the reality is that if no business comes, if no franchise business comes to our community, and we are blockaded by all of Mother Nature's obstacles, next thing you know, everybody's fighting their property taxes because instead of paying 2% or 2.2% or whatever it is, they're going to be paying 5% property taxes because you're still having to pay for the infrastructure of all the traffic. We're building a beautiful little downtown. You have all the foot traffic, all these tourists. Something has to fill that gap. It is logical to allow certain industry to come in and try to make our town well-rounded. This whole town is residential. I love it. I grew up here. I think it's beautiful, but it's naive to think that it can be maintained for a millennia without change. There has to be adaptation. And you're lucky it's an AutoZone this time. I mean, there's any number of things that would be less desirable. This is okay. Is it great? Is it everything everybody wants, your dream on cloud 9? Probably not.
Time's up.
But it is a positive option. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Lisa Benford. I live at 202 Moore Street. My property backs up right to this dwelling right here. I am asking, this is my 3rd time coming, we all know, we've all already been here, to please do not allow this to happen. All the parking is right back through there. Like the gentleman said, our neighbor, that there's going to be fluids. They are going to be back there working on things. They don't close till 9 o'clock. You're going to hear all that banging. There's fluids that could be leaking right up into my yard where my animals are, where I am. You know, I want to be able to sit outside and play with my dogs and enjoy quiet time. We live in a nice neighborhood. Our neighbors, me, I've worked hard for what I have. If we put something right there, a commercial building right there, it is going to depreciate all of our property all around us. And I think it'll be a domino effect. The next house, who's going to want a commercial building right there? That one's just going to be the same thing, and then we're back down to the Colby's house. It's going to be straight commercial. Well, I see a Walgreens or something right there, you know? I'm begging y'all, please do not approve this. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Ricardo G. Rios, 220 North Post Oak. I'm like a lot of these people. I've been here a couple times. You know, there's really not much to say that hadn't been said. You know, of course, I oppose the AutoZone, but, you know, people want jobs, you know, and I understand that, but you've got to understand, we've got bigger problems. We've got a Burger King out there that's had a now hiring sign since they opened. So until we fix that problem, you know, we're still going to have issues. And you know, I'm really glad to see all these people out here, and I'm not gonna take that much time, because a lot of stuff that I was gonna say has already been said. But I appreciate what y'all doing, the city council, but I really want them to consider, you know, doing something about this, because I'm getting tired, you know. I've been in the neighborhood 27 years, and when I got there, I was a young buck. And now, you know, like a couple of them, we're not the young ones anymore. But I'm really glad to see all the outreach that people are coming out here, but it also lets me know that each time this comes up, that we're building an army. And we're gonna continue that, but, you know, please consider what the residents got to say. Thank you.
I'd like to say something before the next speaker. It's really difficult to hear them when there's people back there talking, so respect the speakers at the podium. If you want to speak, please come up and speak at the podium. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Veronica Ariano, 119 North Post Oak Street. I'm not going to use the whole 3 minutes because, like he said, everybody said everything. I live right behind where the parking's going to be. That, to me, that cannot happen. It just can't. I can hear Burger King's loudspeaker from my bedroom as it is. Trash flies from their parking lot to my yard, to the neighbor's yard, to the lady across the street's yard. You know, it's just horrible. And I can't live like that anymore. Every morning, we have to get up and pick up trash regardless. If it's ours, most likely it's Burger King's. Point is, everybody said what we already have to say. If we keep having to come up here time after time, we will. It's just a waste of time for us. So, I am against the AutoZone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Howdy, everyone. Just real quick,
Name and address, please.
Edgar Diosdado. I am the fortunate person that lives behind Burger King. I can definitely say I'm not too excited over an AutoZone. I'm a big DIY person, as the guy mentioned, but I surely don't want one right next door. So I am voting against this. When we purchased our home, we did it because we were planning on kids. We had one kid, now we have two. Perfect size lot. Honestly, we were very fortunate that it went for sale when it did, and we're happy to live there. We don't want to see an AutoZone. It's already hard enough to see all the cars that turn in my driveway, as I think I'm the only one that has a 2-row or double driveway. My camera picks up every single day at least plenty of cars to where my phone goes off every single day. Okay, it's kind of annoying. So definitely don't want more traffic. I'm concerned because when they built Burger King, the landscape is way taller. We get a lot of water into our yard. Okay, there's a big old thing y'all constructed there that when it rains, I see hardly any water there, maybe a little bit here and there. It's kind of useless. I would like to see a change on that. If not, you know, y'all can always do a giant swimming pool there for the kids, for the neighborhood. That would be awesome. Which comes to that, if y'all are going to construct something in that replacement of that home, do a water park for the kids. You know, do something for the kids. You don't see that in this town. You know, we drive to College Station to do that for the summer for the kids. Just an idea. Think about it. But let's do something that's going to be, you know, convenient for us. An AutoZone is not. Okay? And just real quick, everyone that's came and speak, huge applause to y'all. Thank y'all so much for voting against this. All right? Thank y'all.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Marco Antonio Castañeda, 804 East Washington Avenue. It's probably not going to make many of y'all happy, but I'm here to voice my support for the AutoZone construction near Highway 6. I understand that there are concerns about preserving the character and charm of Washington Avenue, and I respect the community's desire to maintain the integrity of this historic area. However, I believe this project could significantly contribute to the ongoing growth of our community without encroaching on the aspects of Navasota we all want to protect. Navasota's population is growing, with recent estimates showing nearly 9,000 residents and an annual growth rate of about 4.6%. As we continue to grow, we need to attract more businesses that would serve both local residents and visitors. AutoZone, being a well-known and respected brand, would complement our existing auto parts stores like O'Reilly and Napa, which shows there is a demand for such services. An additional store would not only provide competition but improve service options for customers. Navasota's growth is not only a reflection of its own local development, but it's also influenced by the increasing population of the nearby cities such as Bryan College Station. And with Texas A&M continuously expanding, the influx of students and faculty creates a ripple effect in its surrounding communities. As more people seek affordable housing and quieter living options within driving distance, towns like Navasota become attractive alternatives. This steady influx of residents from neighboring cities contributes to our own economic growth and development, making Navasota a key part of a broader region's expansion. From a business perspective, the increased traffic along Highway 6 will bring more potential customers to the area, benefiting businesses downtown. More businesses mean more foot traffic, and more foot traffic means a healthier local economy. This growth is essential for small businesses. Furthermore, AutoZone's presence would bring jobs and investment into our community, helping to boost employment opportunities for local residents. New businesses like AutoZone also contribute to the local tax base, including property taxes, which provide crucial funding for our schools, infrastructure, and essential services. These added tax revenues help improve the overall quality of life for everyone here in Navasota. I fully support this project not only for the economic benefits it will bring, but because it aligns with the needs of our growing town. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Hello, my name is Judy Duncan, and I live at 118 Miller Street and 200 Miller Street, and we own property on Ivy Street. I think this location is not a good location for the AutoZone. I'd like to see you deny this request for this overlay change. I think we need to keep Navasota a little bit more quaint and charming, as people have stated. There are more locations, I think, that they're more suitable for AutoZone. There's property for sale behind Walmart. There's property for sale up and down the bypass. Some older properties on sale on LaSalle, South LaSalle. I think there are more locations that are more suitable than this. And I agree with so many people that have stated the same thing. We want our Navasota to remain nice and beautiful. Keep Navasota beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Hello, my name is Randy Mars. I live at 302 Hillside. I also have a business here at 318 East Washington, Dixie Dames Boutique. I'd love to see a business come in that would increase traffic flow. AutoZone's not going to do that. It's not going to bring people downtown where we have an increase in business. We need that. AutoZone, we just had a Ford dealer that moved. Their building's vacant. We have Aaron's by next to Tractor Supply. Their building's vacant. We have the place next to New Hope Church. Their building's vacant. We have the place across from O'Reilly's. That building's vacant. There are a lot of other locations which are going to be for a destination business. The real estate business people that decided on this location, they didn't really look. They didn't talk to city planners. They didn't talk to residents. They just found a piece of property, said, oh, it's got great traffic. And Washington does have great traffic. Unfortunately, it's a lot of people going to College Station, a lot of people going to Brenham, Houston, everything. We get people in our store from Brenham, Houston, College Station, Bryan, Hempstead, all over okay? We don't get enough of them, obviously, but we do get people from all over. Because they're coming to Navasota, because it's a nice, beautiful town. It's a place they can go get dinner, they can stop at Classic Rock, we have 10 boutiques in this area. Ours is just one of them. We need a business that's gonna bring new people in. AutoZone's not gonna do that. Destroying Washington at the entrance of the town on Washington isn't going to do that. I say, don't do it. Let me see. I was writing some things down. I don't want Navasota to become a suburb. Okay? We're our own town. We need AutoZone, yeah, but we don't need them right in the main drag. My vote against it. Don't know what influence that has, but if anyone wants to come to a boutique, 318 East Washington, right next to Zips Liquors, thank you very much.
Anything else? If not,
I've got a question. I don't, maybe Lupe, you can help me. Does the economic team of the city, what do they see, or what do they anticipate as either positive or negative outcomes if this was to be approved?
I think, if you just look at the economics of it, of course, an AutoZone is going to generate more tax revenue than a home, right? But, that's not the only factor at play. I think you have to look at all of the aspects, and obviously this is a residential area. It was zoned overlay district for a reason many years ago, and that's why we continue to have these conversations. So if there wasn't an overlay, then that would mean that the direction of the city would be commercial for that property, right? It was zoned residential and overlay during the comp plan process many years ago, with the intention of it being residential with overlay. I know one thing that has come up a lot tonight is why do we have to keep doing this? Sometimes staff feels the same way, but that's just part of the rights as a property owner to petition and request things. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed, doesn't mean it's going to get approved, but that is a right that all of us as property owners in Navasota have, right? We have the ability to submit applications. But regardless, yeah, I think there's multiple factors at play here, and from planning perspective, the property is zoned residential with overlay. That's how it was intended in the comp plan, and until that changes with maybe the renewal of the comp plan, which I don't think it will. I think it'll maintain the overlay district boundaries, and so yeah, it's really hard because I hear both sides. I hear the benefits of the economics, but if I were to live next door, I'd probably have the same feelings as these folks. So.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Todd Matthews. I'm a business owner here in Navasota. 103 Church Street. I've been here approximately 15 years. And I think, I certainly understand the concerns of the adjacent property owners and the neighborhood. My question is to these people that own property. Most of them are maybe owners, maybe not, but I know that the adjacent properties are certainly owned by investors. And this is certainly, in my view, a commercial corridor into our city here in Navasota. I ask you, as the zoning committee, and I thank you for serving. I've served on an advisory committee with the city for 5 terms, chaired for one of those terms. And I appreciate your time and that it takes away from your families and life. But my question to you is, what is your vision for this area? We've already heard that 84% of the corridor is owned by either commercial or investors. These are not residents who own their property and live on site. So what is your vision? What is your vision for this property? We have a 1950 home with low ceilings. What is the vision for this property?
That's what I ask. Where are we headed? Can you build a dental office there? The numbers, I know, the numbers don't work for that type of business. That's the only business I know. Medical business, I don't know, may work, but it's an overlay district. It's been established 14 years ago. Where are we headed? What's the vision? I challenge you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to come up and make one more statement, just about design, I guess. Greatly appreciate the feedback from everybody that lives on Post Oak, which is going to be, on the eastern side. One thing looking at that street view is there's no sign for a dead end. Doesn't say anything about this is a dead end street. I am going on the record right now saying AutoZone is willing to put up dead end signs on both sides of the street. Even adding to the sign that says residents only, just to try to deter people from going down that route. So I just, on street Google, hearing the residents, hearing that, I just happened to go on the street and look, there's no dead end sign from what I'm seeing. Google Images could be old, it might be up at this point, but from what I'm seeing, there's no dead end sign. AutoZone is willing to put up dead end sign, residents only on both sides to try to deter that Burger King traffic and whatever traffic we could. I don't see any traffic coming out of ours. We are even willing to put up a sign on the Post Oak Drive that says no left turn, right turns only. We are willing to put up any signage we can to help deter people from going on residential streets. So just wanted to add that statement. Thank you,
sir.
One thing about sitting up here on our view, it's a long game. You have to figure out, like what Dr. Todd was saying, what's our vision? And, the overall, sentiment of the citizens here is they want to keep Navasota. But then, we, like Lupe was saying, we do have a commitment to trying to foster business that comes in here. I'm a business owner. I actually live on Washington Avenue. I am one of evidently the 16% that doesn't have, and my neighbors, I thought it would be higher than that, but whatever. We live in a community. I do have trash that comes up from whatever. I have the same pains that y'all have. We have to think about what our job is too. We're not trying to be, duck it or anything like that. Some people are going to be happy, some people are going to be sad. But, Navasota, in my opinion, the draw is the historical character of the city. And commercial creep is definitely a problem. And the commercial overlay district was set so that citizens have the right to come in and be part of the process. So if you have to come 5 more times, that's your right. But it doesn't make our decision any easier. It's just something that we have to do. So with that said, if there's any other, I don't know Todd, you've been really quiet.
Because there's no detention pond.
Tell them there's no water issue.
We gotta work on that one.
Lupe, was the property that the Burger King cited at B1?
It was cited at B1 years before.
Right. So we did not have
we didn't have any control over that.
We didn't have control. I always want our residents to understand that we are beholden to the ordinances that exist that the city has. So with the Burger King, it was already B1. You can't just say you can't put a business there, right? This is a different circumstance where it's zoned residential and we're being asked to be allowed to cite a business there. And so I complained about the water when the Burger King went in. I know I did. So I understand those problems. But so this is a difference. So when we make reference to the problems that we have with the Burger King, our group here was really held because we already had a business zoning there. But I think the term commercial creep is, buzzword of the day for us. Lupe, give us how much commercial property the same distance away from downtown red light do we have? A reasonable amount, right? Just on a different street without the cars per hour. That's what we're dealing with. I know these corporates, they have numbers games. If you have to match the cars per hour, you have to match the population density within X amount of miles, you have to match the average household income in X amount of miles, and when you finally meet those numbers, these companies show up. AutoZone wouldn't have wanted to cite that there 10 years ago because we didn't make those numbers. We have a thriving community, and now we have industries like this saying, hey, we should put ourselves in there too. So we're going to see more of this as it goes because the town's doing well. And we've got to pick our battles and draw our lines. I think Washington is the line that we have, and I think Post Oak is the line that we're deciding is our line in the sand against residential creep.
Yeah, and I would say, O'Reilly just went in across from where it was, so if they're their largest competitor, if LaSalle was good enough for O'Reilly, why isn't it good enough for AutoZone?
I agree.
Hi, my name's Sally Matthews, and I'm at 303 East Washington. And what I'd like to say is this overlay district, I understand what the plan was for it, but that was 14 years ago. A lot happens in 14 years. And I know when Burger King came in, and I know the city of Navasota itself deals with, I think it's called Retail Coach. And Retail Coach is for designing and progressive cities that want growth, and they want money, and they want to do well. And they want the schools to get better, they want the streets to get better, and they want to have something to do with the company. And I know Adam Farmer, who's with Coach Retail, or Retail Coach, he said, these site selection specialists are a pretty small group of people. It's kind of like if you're in petroleum engineering, or in oil and gas, you know everybody. Well, it's the same thing with site selection specialists and the retailers. They're a small group, and if you keep turning down all of these people, one after another, we've got commercial next to us at Burger King. We've got commercial across from us, the insurance company. And like they said, there's 58 properties in that overlay district. And in that 58 properties, there's 20 commercial and there's 38 residential. And out of those, if you take that as numbers, it's 84% is commercial. And so we're 700 feet from Highway 6. We're 60 feet from Burger King. We're 60 feet from Studhalter Insurance. We're 80 feet from Yaya's. And we're, I think, 250 feet from Walmart. And if that doesn't scream commercial, I don't know what does. And commercial increases everyone's property. Washington, if you look at any neighborhood or any community, the commercial is in the front and the residential is in the back. And that is exactly what's in this. This home at 1539 East Washington is not a historic home. It's built in 1953. It's a slab home. It is not historical. You cannot get a historical marker and put that on there. I am a marketing major, and they say marketing is the worst major to get because by the time it comes out, it's already out of date. So 14 years ago, when you did this overlay district, it might have been amazing. You can't put a dental office there. The numbers don't work. The overlay district, what y'all want there, they're not going to be businesses that are going to do well. You want dining, but it's got to be fine dining. You can't have too much noise. You can't have this. It's in a perfect world. And people still need groceries. Harlan's is there. If HEB comes in and everybody wants just to, buy from the community, buy from the community. HEB is known. They put everybody out of business. They started in South Texas, and that's how it works. It's 2024.
Time's
But
up.
thank you so much.
One thing about the commercial overlay district is that it keeps the structural integrity of the buildings intact, basically, to where you have, Falco's is in, he's a lawyer, that's a professional building that he's in, that he didn't change the facade of the house. When you look at, some of the other, like Studhalter's, that is a house. It didn't change the structure of it, but he is, commercial out of it. When you go down the street, some ways, a lot of the businesses that are commercial now, they've been here way before I even moved it down. I moved here in '93. So, at some point, you have to think about what is character, and then what is not. And the commercial overlay was there to have a process to where people can have an active exchange of ideas of what they think the city should be. And what drawed me to Navasota was the historical homes. I own one. I actually live in that house. It's like an old lady. There's always something wrong with it. But I love it. And I wouldn't
Take offense to that.
Oh, man.
You be careful.
So,
Good thing
anyway.
this is a volunteer position.
That's right. So, it still doesn't make our decision any easier, but we have to think about what the character of the city is and what people see when they come in. I really commend AutoZone because it is a nice building. And you're bending over backwards to try to address people's concerns, which is very encouraging. But still, we have to think about, what we want Navasota to look like, because we are different from everybody else. We don't want to be College Station. We don't want to be Hempstead. We don't want to be Brenham. Navasota is Navasota. And that's the things that have drawn people here. And so, with that said, we have decisions to make.
Mm-hmm. With that said, Dr. Waller, we will close the public hearing at 7:22 p.m. And that brings us to consideration and possible action on a zoning change application submitted by CAJ Family Limited Partnership for the purpose of developing an AutoZone of retail sales use. The zoning change application requests to change the zoning from Article 6, R1B, medium density single dwelling unit quarter acre residential district with Article 10 overlay district to Article 11B1 general business district with Article 10 overlay district. The property affected is located at 1539 East Washington Avenue, Navasota, Texas 77868. Legally described as Jones Block 1, Lot 3.
I make a motion. Y'all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I make a motion we deny the zoning change application. I make that based on the fact that this room is full of people, and there were 18 people that stood up, 14 people were against that, against the rezoning. 4 people were for it. I feel like I work for the people, and so I really want to support what the people say. For the second reason is because we've said no to it twice. And now if we reverse ourselves and change that to a yes, I don't know where that would take us. And so I make the motion that we deny the zoning change application submitted by CAJ Family Limited Partnership for the purpose of developing an auto zone or retail sales use. Zoning change application request to change the zoning from Article 6R1B medium density single dwelling unit quarter acre residential district with Article 10 OD overlay district to Article 11B1 general business district with Article 10 OD overlay district. The property affected is located at 1539 East Washington Avenue, Navasota, Texas, legally described as Jones Block 1, Lot 3.
Have a motion from Commissioner Copeland to deny the zoning request.
I second it.
A second from Commissioner Hancock. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? See no opposition. The motion to change or to deny the request has been. That brings us to item number 5, conduct a workshop discussion on existing manufactured home regulations. Don't all leave now.
Leave. This is going to be an interesting discussion, so please stay.
Let him go.
That was hard,
Let
y'all.
him go.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, that was hard.
It's extremely difficult.
They did a lot to try to get it going.
Lupe?
Mr. Chairman, Planning and Zoning Commission, the next item is a discussion on existing manufactured home regulations. Over the last several months, City Council was approached during various citizen remarks at the meetings to discuss possible changes to the existing manufactured home regulations. There was an interest by a citizen to install one in a vacant piece of property. The current regulations don't allow for that. And so they tasked Planning and Zoning Commission on a workshop to figure out if existing regulations were warranted to change or if there was a desire to change. And so over the last several months, staff have met with the subcommittee, which comprised of 2 Planning and Zoning Commission members and staff, to do a little bit of research to see if the current ordinance that we have in place is still relevant, what other cities have done, and if there's any changes that would be entertained by the group as a whole. And so in your packet, you have a formal report from the subcommittee with their findings and recommendations. One of the things that was a point of discussion was the reasoning behind the original manufactured home ordinance that put in place regulations. One of the things that was discussed at the time, and that really was being discussed with a lot of cities across the state and probably even across the nation, was appraised values. There was a discussion on whether manufactured home prohibition was due directly to manufactured homes declining in appraised value versus appraising, and if that had any negative impacts on site-built homes around the state, and of course for cities in the actual city. And so the report before you shows you a few different examples. We took the committee. We took a few different kind of anecdotal examples of a manufactured home in a predominantly site-built home neighborhood and compared their appraisals over the last 4 years. And then we took another area where you have a site-built home surrounded by predominantly manufactured homes. And so that shows you in the report. Generally, the manufactured homes have not depreciated in value in the last 4 years, but they do appreciate at a significantly lower rate than site-built homes. And so in the first page you see, here's one example, and it's actually a good anecdotal piece because it's in the Horlock and Kettler area. It's a single manufactured home surrounded by all site-built homes. Over the last 4 years, it increased 18% compared to average of 25% of site-built homes. The homes surrounded by manufactured homes, those increased right on par with the other area, 27 to 25%, and the manufactured homes surrounding it increased in appraisal significantly less. The other piece we did is we wanted to just look at a big picture instead of comparing, a block by block. We did a little bit larger area for comparison. There's one manufactured home park, or the most recent manufactured home park is Sunset Park off of Laredo Street. There's a total of about 64 lots in that manufactured home park. From 2019 to 2023, it showed about a 20% increase in appraisal, so that's about a 5% increase per year. We compared that with Heritage Meadows, a site-built home subdivision. The appraisals, they increased 41% over the last 4 years, so that's about a 10.25% increase. So site-built homes generally, it appears that they're appraising in value about twice or 50% more than manufactured homes. And they're both increasing in appraisal, but obviously the manufactured homes are starting at a lower value threshold. But there is a significant difference in appraisal. When it comes to regulations, as mentioned, we looked around other cities, similar size cities, if Navasota was an outlier in our regulations, or if this is kind of status quo. And for the most part, what we found is most cities do have very similar ordinances to Navasota. Manufactured homes, singular manufactured home placements are generally not permitted throughout the town. They either have manufactured home zones or overlay zones that allow for those, or through the conditional use permit like Navasota does with the manufactured home park. During those discussions, looking at all these ordinances, the committee had several ideas, just kind of throwing them at legal counsel to see if there was an amendment proposed, what could be a valid option. So one was amending the ordinance to allow manufactured homes potentially through the specific use permit process. That process mirrors very closely what we're doing tonight, which is a public hearing, public notification, letters to all the adjacent property owners. But the specific use permit process is a little bit difficult because if the property ever changes hands, the specific use permit is invalid or no longer valid, and so that would create issues down the road because it's hard to move a manufactured home out. It's very costly, and I'm assuming if somebody bought it, they would want to have the ability to use it. So that really wasn't a valid or a good potential to use. The other was to amend existing ordinances to allow the installation and replacement of manufactured homes for properties only with homestead exemptions. This and bullet point number 2 and bullet point number 3, which is amend existing ordinances to prohibit manufactured homes being replaced to be used as rental. Both of those really go hand in hand. There's a general, opinion that when you have a rental property, it's oftentimes taken care of less than when you have a homestead exemption. And so both of those factors were looked at. Unfortunately, it would really only apply to manufactured homes that are already in existence. Homestead exemptions don't apply when you have a vacant lot. And so a manufactured home would first have to be installed in order to establish a homestead exemption. And then prohibiting the use of a manufactured home as rental property, legal counsel just recommended against it. We wouldn't do the same for a site-built home, and there's some other legal factors that really just make that option not feasible and not legally recommended. And so, with all of those things, one last area or option that was discussed with the subcommittee, if there is a desire to change the ordinance, would be to either designate manufactured home zones, which means creating new zoning districts specifically where manufactured homes are allowed, or amending certain existing zones in the city to allow for conditional use permit process. That process is very similar as what we did tonight. The difference is that permit is valid for the continuation of the property, and it doesn't matter how many times it changes hands. So those are really the two most feasible options if a desire or a want would be to change the existing ordinance. One of the things that the subcommittee discussed, and I'll bring this up on the screen here, is if a conditional use permit process was desired, which means not creating a new zone, amending current zones to allow for them through the conditional use process, would be areas that already have a high percentage of manufactured homes, and so that would be in zones R3 and R2. Which, if you look at the city zoning map, those are areas that already have a high percentage of manufactured homes. There is also another recommendation here to have the conditional use process be added to B1 zones, and that's the red commercial corridor zones, with the caveat that it cannot front, or the specific property cannot front one of the main thoroughfares of town. So if you're in the red and you have a property that's a block off of the main thoroughfare, then you would qualify for that theoretical conditional use permit. But if not, then you wouldn't. And so these things are outlined in the staff report. If y'all have any questions about anything in here, we can definitely open it up for discussion amongst the group, and if y'all want to have public comments, y'all can do so. This is a workshop item, so this is at the discretion of the chairman and the group if y'all want to allow public comment.
Yes, I think we will allow public comments. Again, we're going to limit the comments to 3 minutes. I want to say thank you to Commissioner Barczyk and Commissioner Wisner and city staff and legal for all the research and hard work that they've done on this. A lot went into it, and you guys did a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, and I just want to say before we start hearing comments, it's just like the last thing that was brought to us. It's not easy.
It is not.
We really did think of, we tried to step outside the box as best as we could with protecting the integrity of our community, just like we do when development comes for stick houses. So it's hard. It's hard to try and make everybody happy. But that's really all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I'll just say something too before we get people started. The numbers aren't easy to look at when you're trying to look at property and property values, and you're dealing with, the appraisal values that are coming from the county, and the comparisons here. It's very rough, but the argument had always been presented to me that manufactured home within a block of me decreases the value of my property. And when you look roughly at the numbers, the houses that do have manufactured homes in a close proximity to them are not growing in appraisal at a drastically reduced value compared to houses that are in a neighborhood that is entirely stick-built. So that argument doesn't exist at the appraisal line. I wish all the real estate people were around and didn't bail on us so that they could give us some, okay. Well, then you can tell me this then. Is there data, like from a university who has, a program that shows that if you have a stick-built house, it's not your appraisal value that's being blocked, it's your resale value, because there's a big difference between what the county says your house is worth and what you're selling your house with, right? So if this idea is out there that I'm losing value in my property because there's a manufactured home on my block, but the appraisal doesn't show it, does it really show up in the resale? And my argument has always been that a well-kept, attractive, manufactured home doesn't hurt me nearly as much as the guy with 4 beat-up old cars or 6 barking dogs. So to say, when you're talking about property, you're talking about neighborhood and livability and all that sort of stuff. It's very hard to put this. I don't want manufactured homes in my neighborhood because they're killing my property value.
Excuse me, Sherry, could you step up to the,
Yeah, so that everybody can, the people on YouTube.
I can speak from a market value situation from what I do. And I believe people looking for properties might not consider one as much as another if there is a manufactured home mixed in. I feel like those, if they had a nice community of those together, would be more acceptable than trying to mix them in, and it may not affect their assessed value as much because it's on paper, but their market value, when people are looking at homes and wanting to buy homes and invest or build, or it could potentially affect their market value.
Okay, so
resale value.
The second side of that question of affecting market value is, then does that generate a affordable home in a stick built because its price is reduced because of the neighbor, right? So somebody's like, that's a good starter for me because I can afford that one. It works both ways, right? I mean, the seller is going, dang, I'm losing, I don't get the value that I want. But there are buyers that are willing
And there are
to
some
make that trade.
beautiful manufactured homes. But, I just feel, would I want one down the street from me after I've invested so much in my home? I probably wouldn't. I don't know that you mix things that way. There's Yeah,
I know.
I mean,
Ethan and I spent a lot of time, talking about that, and then we run into property rights issues, for that lot beside you, and you're telling somebody, you don't get to put the kind of home you want on this property.
Same thing if you have a home and someone next to you puts a giant metal building in the backyard. It's sort of the same thing. Is it what you expected when you bought the property? It's not what you expected.
And you can't stop that giant metal building.
You can't do anything about it. So, I hope I answered your question.
No, it helps.
Personally speaking, just coming off of buying some property, and went to a realtor. We drove around. We looked at existing houses to buy, different town, and I would not look at a house if it had a metal building next to it or a manufactured home. I don't care what it was priced. If it was X amount cheaper, you could have the best view, you could have everything. I was out. So that's just me saying, in my own view, if you're looking at aesthetics when you're trying to get out and look at houses or whatever, it's a big picture. I mean, just like what we were talking about earlier, you have to have the vision or a view or standards or something. And then also, I mean, I held myself to those same values too. So.
Yeah, I mean, and the last thing, I'm assuming most of the community, if we go with the latter idea we came up with allowing them under conditional use permits, the last thing I would want to see personally is every lot that could have a manufactured home have a rented one on it. So that's the last thing I think. That's what we were trying to avoid when we came together and was like, okay, how in the world can we hash this out to where community-wide we get what most people would want, and for me it was rented property, because there's rental property that isn't kept up maybe as much as someone who owns it and brings it in, right? And we don't need a whole bunch of developers owning property to put mobile homes in. They don't even live here. They live 6 states away, and here we are. So that was the struggle in trying to come up with a solution that would fit the mold for change.
But then legal was saying.
There's just no way. I mean, it's a right to business, right? There's no way you can just say, well, you own that, but you can't rent it.
Yeah.
Well, I live 4 houses down from a mobile home park that constantly the trash, and it's all rentals. There's no owners there. and it's just trash everywhere, and the police are there a lot. I'm sure Chief Mize can talk about that, and, there are some significant, from what I understand, drug problems and stuff down there. I don't walk there anymore. I don't ride my bike there anymore, but yeah, it is a problem.
I understand the conditional use, and that is a solution, but still, that didn't solve that problem.
But it's also eternity. You could never revoke it.
Yeah.
That's right. You can't go back. I think that's, the one by me, I don't think we can do anything about it.
Okay.
And that just goes to you have designated areas within the city that are allowed for that.
Yes.
And, for many years, that's been the standard. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that some of the other cities that y'all looked at, that's what they had as well.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Do you have that property behind you, is that a designated mobile home park?
Those two lots behind me, or are you talking about the one at the end of Grimes?
At the end of Grimes.
At the end of Grimes, I'm pretty sure it's
No,
all, it's
I don't think it is.
It's not a designated.
No, it's not.
area.
Yeah.
There's only two, right?
Oh,
Yes.
there's 9.
Brosig and
Brosig,
two
yeah.
parks, and then
Yeah,
on,
like that, by definition, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, Sandra Ritchie and Inez Quarles, and I'm at 203 East Lee. So we're here trying to find out the status of, my aunt wanted to put her manufactured home. I believe it's in a
Because the last
B1
meeting-
area.
The last meeting I was at, it wasn't a yes and it wasn't a no.
Right.
And they said that they, would check. So I want to know what, the status is.
Because this is a workshop. So we're trying to discuss openly what our ideas are so we can give you an answer. So, that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're going to make a recommendation at some point, and then it's going to have to go to the city council, and then that's how the answer is going to have to come about.
well, we've had meetings as a subcommittee prior to this to discuss all of the options that could be beneficial to you.
Okay.
And other folks, right? And that's kind of what we're summarizing here as a larger group. So we can
okay.
decide, are any of these options viable, or should we stick to the ordinance as it is? So we don't have an answer for you today, but the discussion here is to try and get to that final step for an answer for you.
Oh, okay.
We're working.
Yes, ma'am.
Although,
We're making progress.
Oh, okay.
Sorry it's taking so long.
where did she say her property was?
Saul Street.
Which it's in B1,
Okay.
and it's not frontage.
19 Saul.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So it's all frontage in B1, which is what,
We took that as the direction, right? Okay,
Right.
this is a piece of property we know people want to do this with, so I think the biggest thing that, we felt like we were onto something there with okay, R3s, B1s, because it's all those they're distributed all over town, that zoning. Because one of the things that really bothered me was, well, we'll allow manufactured homes, but we're gonna make sure that they're all in that part, this corner of town where there's already a bunch of them. And to me, that was a fairness and equity issue. I mean, if you've got property somewhere else in town, you don't get to cite a manufactured home on your property, but if my lot was down in that part of town, I would. So what's the difference there?
Right.
Because people say we can do it there, but they say we can't do it there. So the idea of using conditional use and R3 and B1 was that we've got R3 and B1 distributed all over the community, and that was going to allow people, the same opportunities around all kinds of streets and parts of town.
Right, with the majority being in R3 and
Yeah,
some parts of B1.
so that seemed pretty good. I think the thing that hit us when we got to that point, we were like, oh great, Carrie's not gonna beat up on this one, right? This is gonna meet, what legal does, because everything else we were thinking about, legal kept going, you really can't do that, you know? And we were like, well, this will work. And then, Lupe says, you know, that would work, but I'm probably gonna get 50 a week of people putting in conditional uses to try and change a lot of properties in town and site manufactured homes on them. And it's not because they're gonna be people that are like, hey, that's a $15,000 lot and I can put a $130,000 manufactured home on it and get myself, you know, property for less than $150,000. It was gonna be, yeah, it's going to be a developer or, you know, or a realtor or somebody that owns and rents a lot of properties, and they're just going to be sucking up these lots and asking for conditional use, and you really can't deny the conditional use because it's going to meet the appropriate, you know, ordinance and everything, and then we're going to get that, and that was something that we didn't want. We're trying to make this work for homeowners, you know, and it just is really hard to.
And then on the flip side of that, you know, as the ordinance sits now, you can replace it once if it's existing. So now you've got someone who's in R2 who has a mobile home they want to replace, but they can't. But if they bought a lot in B1 off frontage, they could get a conditional use. So it's like,
yeah,
it's just a cluster because
there's
no, it impacts everyone negatively no matter
Well,
which
to-
direction you go.
To tag on to what Todd said, you know, think of all the developers who go stand on the courthouse steps and buy stuff sight unseen just so they can have it, you know, and flip a buck all the time. They have no investment mentally or physically in our community.
That is correct.
Well, there's a lot of developers who own lots in R3.
Yeah.
So then that's what we looked at too. Well, who's, you know, is it folks like Miss, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but is it folks like you who want to put a homestead, or is it majority developers who are sitting and waiting?
Right.
Was there any considerations about, you know, requirements like they have to be on a slab, or they have to, you know?
Yeah,
There's a plethora of.
Cut the tongue, put the skirt. Yeah, that sort of stuff. So it really wouldn't be movable again, right? It would be the sited home. It would, yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, if anything was entertained, it would have to come with some design standards attached.
Yeah.
Like less than 3 years old, like.
Yeah, that you couldn't buy, you know, buy a manufactured home that's already 15 years old and bring it and site it. That if you were going to site it.
1986 one and bring it in.
Yeah, exactly.
Leave it where it is.
With shack.
Yeah. So, yeah, we had talked about that. I mean, that's all just numbers, right? But yeah, picking what year you really want to use and stuff. But there definitely was the discussion about we're not going to drag an old one in and drop it. Yeah.
You know, because some of the newer manufactured homes, like the lady said, are rather nice. But yeah, it's still difficult.
Yeah, unfortunately, with when you're trying to make something work for an individual lot or property owner, spot zoning is not encouraged at all. It really breaks up your zoning districts. You want large districts, and so spot zoning, we didn't really touch on that, but we just know that that's really not a feasible option. It's either areas or none. And the way we have it now, it's areas if you have the amount of land to do a park.
What was the one picture that you showed though of the edge of a town where they had zoned for the manufactured homes, and it's like there were hundreds of them all on that one side of town?
Yes, I can't remember which. I know in this report there's links, and but yeah, one of the cities they did a manufactured home overlay in certain areas of town. I mean, you just have to get on Google Satellite View, and that's where the line is. You see manufactured homes throughout, and then something else on the opposite side of the street. So that was one of the, I think, as Ethan mentioned, an aha moment is we're going to designate certain areas. In our mind, it's to help an individual or two, but really it will create a manufactured home park with those boundaries.
Without it being labeled a park and being managed as a park with a property manager who owns a park. You would just have a bunch of individual properties that exist in a park-like setting. And that's...
It may all be rental.
Yeah.
like the one down the street from me.
So that one was, I don't, that was an awful image, an aerial image of a town where you just had a line, and then there were literally hundreds all on that side of the town, yeah.
And I think another thing to consider is if there was a desire to make manufactured homes conditional uses in R2 and R3, that is an amendment to the map, and those areas probably justify going through the public hearing process. There's been a lot of individuals over the years that have probably wanted to put in a manufactured home in those areas, and when they read the ordinance, they realized they couldn't. They built a site-built home. And so I imagine that there would probably be some pushback from homeowners that have decided to follow the process and the rules that are in place now, and now it's saying, hey, well, gosh, if I had a time machine, I wouldn't have spent money on this and built something else, right? So
it's luck of the draw there.
Luck of the draw, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But still, in the grandiose scheme of things, if you're thinking about the city cohesiveness, stick-built homes are probably going to be, tax-wise, property value-wise, are more attractive.
Is there any other public that wants to comment on the? Step up, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Geraldine Wallace, and I am the sister of Inez Quarles. She owns a lot on Saul Street, and of course she's trying to put a manufactured home there. Her reason is she can afford a manufactured home, but she cannot afford for someone to build it. So, if possible, that you could consider rezoning and consider the quality of the home and the upkeep of the home. Because when you own land and you need a place to stay and you can afford to have something on it, then it should be considered. Not just anything, but our manufacturers' homes do not depreciate property. It depends on how it's kept and what you do around it. So, please consider.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Lupe, do we have any idea of how many manufactured homes there are outside of the two parks?
Yes, it's an average. There's probably around 250 outside of the park. There's a total of approximately 300 in town. And this is based off parcels, so there is some areas where you'll have a large tract that has, 6, 7 on them. But generally I say 300 throughout, plus or minus, and then about 250 outside of parks.
The way the ordinance is right now, that if they moved them out, they have two chances to put one in, move it out, put one other one in, and then after that, no more.
Yes, so this ordinance, this ordinance was adopted in 2008. If you had one at the time of ordinance adoption, it was grandfathered, you weren't forced to remove it, and you also qualified for a one-time replacement. And after the one-time replacement, that would be the last replacement, and so in the future, if you ever wanted to do something else, it would have to be a site-built home or a modular home. That's the current regulations.
Wasn't there something about, if it had no utilities or something for a time period?
Yes, there's, so that's just the general. There's also some trigger points where if you have a manufactured home or a mobile home that was already here at the time of the ordinance adoption, if it becomes abandoned, and as the way the ordinance defines it is no utilities for more than 6 months, and there's some discretion too by code enforcement to see. I mean, if it's a brand new shiny one and, they just went on vacation for, a trip around the world, there's some discretion there for enforcement. But if you have a mobile home that's falling apart, that hasn't had utilities for more than 90 days actually, then if you deem it abandoned, then it would have to be removed. So there's some other factors, sub-trigger points for the enforcement, but generally, we have seen a lot of replacements. It's not a lot. I think it's probably a handful a year, and some years are less than others. But we do get, I'd say we get a handful of calls a month asking about, hey, I see this lot for sale. Are manufactured homes allowed? And, we tell them no. If it's vacant, it's not. And that's generally the last we hear of it, unless someone comes back with a modular home or site-built home. And there has been quite a bit of new site-built home infill in some of the areas where there was a lot of manufactured homes in the past.
And how many modulars?
Modulars, I could, just from direct contact with those customers, probably 3 in the last 6 years.
And then the lots.
They're not filling the market niche in this town.
No, modulars are I don't know if it's aesthetics or if it's price, but generally we don't see a lot of, we have seen, I think we probably see more pier and beam site-built home than we have seen a modular home. And that's generally by smaller builders.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like, it's been years ago that we talked about, when we have these smaller lots that, a manufactured home, fits on, and it's very difficult to build, a regular construction home there. We're going to try to clean some of that stuff up to try to either, but I don't remember whatever happened other than that.
Yes, so there's a lot of the areas where there's a high percentage of manufactured homes. Most of those lots are 50 by 100. Once you applied all of the side setback rules, you would end up with a really narrow buildable area that would only fit a manufactured home, but they weren't allowed in those zones. So Planning and Zoning and City Council passed an amendment that if you have a lot that's 50 foot wide or less, the side setbacks are significantly reduced. They're like 7 feet on each side. So it'll leave you with like a 30-foot buildable pad, which is a good size home. So there is an amendment that was passed a number of years ago that allowed for those lots that are narrow to be able to put site-built homes or modular homes on. And we have seen a few that have gone in those areas.
Thank you.
The one question I asked in the last meeting was, does the city or is there any other community programs that can assist in building homes for, financial needs and there's, Lupe mentioned there's some in other bigger cities, but we're not, I guess, large enough to really have those relationships with programs like that, which would assist in building a stick-built home for someone in need. We kind of hit every imaginable option
Very
that we
thorough.
could think of.
Thank
Lupe, do you have an approximate number of R3 lots that are vacant?
I think I put that in the... Not vacant. I think what we put in the staff report is what percentage of the town is R2 and R3. I'd have to use our GIS software to figure that out. But I think it's generally most of those vacant lots are in those R2 and R3 areas. The original presentation that staff put together for City Council, it showed you a map where the vacant lots generally are in the city. And if you overlay that with the zoning, most of that is in R2 and R3. So I think it probably goes hand in hand, around 300, 250 to 300 vacant lots in R2 and R3 areas.
Vacant lots or?
That doesn't mean they're for sale.
No, it doesn't mean they're for sale. Yeah, 385 vacant lots, and it really overlays. So I would say 300 is a good estimate for those zones. There's the vacant lots.
So the stipulations, that would be, put on the structure. It has to be, tongue out, has to be on a slab, has to be anchored, with the cost of the manufactured home plus that. I know it's very difficult to try to figure out, what it would actually be, but like if we were trying to figure that out for today's dollars, how much extra would that be with the cost of the manufactured home, with the stipulations that we put on, what would that be?
From the few calls that we've gotten from manufactured home resellers or sellers, generally what we're asking for with design standards, skirting, cut the hitch, those are already kind of baked in on the price. So I don't really think it would have a significant price impact unless there was an amendment that required like a carport or a detached covered garage. Those things would add significant costs. But skirting and removing the tongue or the hitch, I think that is already baked into the price.
And
Putting a porch, a pad.
Well, that, and I was also thinking about wind load too. I mean, when they have them anchored, the standard, I guess it's 90 mile an hour that they have to.
Yeah, there's, I think in our area it's 110 is what our wind zone is. So they would have to be anchored, and they have to do that now. If one is brought in, they have to meet the wind load, and it has to be anchored, and that's just building code. But yeah, I don't think those requirements increase the cost. It's just, that's just a standard requirement.
So does that bring it close to a stick-built house? When you factor all of that in?
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it just seems like, okay, we're right there at the same price mark.
No, site-built homes, we did get like an anecdotal from a local contractor that, he was very transparent about what it costs to build a house, and
what it costs to build, not what it costs to buy.
Yeah, what it costs to build, not what it costs to buy. And so if you're savvy enough and you have, you have some
people.
A good framing buddy and, that kind of thing. If it's a material, it's very similar. But obviously that's not very common.
Did they give you like $1 per square foot of construction?
I believe it was in the 80s to $100 a square foot.
That was out contractor markup.
That was that's time and materials to put it there.
Yeah.
It's 100%. Yeah. So you take
It's usually go 40.
And then buy the lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you add everything else. If you do dollars per square foot of that versus the other, it's just about size then, right? Oh, I can do a 900 square foot stick built, or I can get a 1,600 square foot manufactured home. It's all price. But so they're both the same affordability to somebody, because what you can spend is what you can spend, but what you're getting for your affordability is square footage. And a lot of people aren't buying it for themselves. They're buying things to, for kids to take when they pass, and grandkids and stuff. You're buying legacy property, not just something for you to, spend the rest of your days in. So it matters to people when it comes to square footage, and the affordability of it is tied into that, so. It's not easy.
Lot to think about.
So with the findings and with the staff report, is there any one direction or leaving the ordinance the same? I mean, what is the general consensus? We don't have to have a vote on it, but just, I guess a more pointed discussion on what we all think as a group.
Well, I mean, I think I was the one that
It's
asked for the
difficult, but I
fleshing it out,
understand
so,
that there are, like her example for,
Right.
to get her a stick-built house versus a manufactured home, it's all about the affordability thing. And, if the majority of R3 and R2 is where, and B1 is where we're seeing mobile homes already, and manufactured homes, I'm sorry. Conditional use permit in those areas, because people are gonna be replacing them anyhow.
Yeah.
But remember, conditional use is forever.
Right.
And what Dr. Wallace said when we first started this, before we even started talking about this piece, was that we, are looking not just at today, but
No, I understand
at
that,
forever.
yeah.
The long game. Yeah, the long game.
Yeah, I think for me, based on the research and everything we thought of from top to bottom, and until we find some kind of program the city can adopt to help folks in this type of situation, I think we leave it as is.
Unfortunately, because if we were to make changes, it's a Pandora's box.
Right.
There's something that you can't, yes.
Right.
Yeah, I see both sides.
I definitely see both sides. And,
Right.
it pains you to have to make a decision like that because you can't help people out. And like you're saying, until you try to get that.
It's in council's hands anyhow.
Well, do we have to, well.
We'll pass
I
it
mean,
back
is
to
it-
you, okay?
Is that, or do we have to, in another meeting, put this on the agenda and then
Right,
vote on it to make a recommendation
Right.
back
Yes.
to them?
Well, I think what we'll do is we'll compile all the feedback and the general direction. I mean, we've heard from 3 of 7, 4 of 7 on what their thoughts are. So,
Thoughts?
Thoughts?
Oh, I agree with you. I don't think we should expand it at this point.
okay. Yeah, we can put a.
Aesthetically, we need to keep it in line with everything else we're voting
It's
on.
the same reason why we just turned down the zoning for AutoZone, right? It's
Yeah.
the same principle.
Exactly, same principle.
All right. Well, we'll put something together and get with staff and see what the next steps are.
All right, so that brings us to our final business of the night. Consideration and possible action on the meeting minutes for the August 8, 2024 meeting.
Can you spell your name right?
Yeah.
He did.
The computer's wonderful.
His name's Big Brooks.
I have no problem with it. I move we accept the minutes as written.
We have a motion to accept them from Commissioner Wisner,
Second.
a second from Commissioner Barczyk. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and we will adjourn this meeting at 8:13.